We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Trans Inclusive Group hosts a powerful T-Door event on November 14th, reflecting on transgender rights, resilience, and advocacy among 2024's pressing challenges in South Florida.
On Veterans Day, the Library of Congress shared LGBTQ veteran stories highlighting their resilience, courage, and dedication despite challenges. Special exhibits and tours were held too.
Dr. Amanda Calhoun advises LGBT individuals to prioritize mental well-being and set boundaries with Trump-supporting family members this holiday season.
HOTspots magazine latest issue highlights Wilton Drive restaurants, the Art of Drag fundraiser, the Fort Lauderdale Film Festival, and more LGBTQ events and features.
Over 1,000 LGBTQ candidates ran for office in 2024's election cycle, with historic wins in 40 states, Puerto Rico, and D.C.
Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels. We're proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, and we now have more than 10 million views on the only daily live queer news show in the world. We're proud that we have more than 1,000 new subscribers in October, and that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida. Over 500,000 of you have watched this show in the last 60 days. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in our community. It's Monday, November 11th, 2024. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ news, you will see it and hear it. HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community. Our mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, HOTspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
Well, let's meet tonight's anchors on Queer News Tonight. We'll start by welcoming Alex Morash. Alex has written for The Advocate and served as editor-in-chief of Options magazine. He's also served as media director of the National LGBTQ Task Force and press secretary for the Florida Democratic Party. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you for having me. Speaking of the former Democratic Party staff, this is my first time back since the election. And, they say it's really unlucky, even a curse, to toast with water. So I'd like to propose a toast with water to a few people to thank for this election cycle. First and foremost, to the Democratic Party, thank you so much. You moved so far to the right without getting a single Republican you thought you were going to get, that you got your entire base practically to abandon you. Good job with that. And then on top of that, the only group that you actually did better with this cycle, the LGBTQ community, to show us how little respect you have for your own base, you've been attacking them, saying it's trans people's fault for your loss. So I just want everyone to know, I'm so sick and tired of that party. They really need to get their act together. That's where I'm at right now. I don't know where the rest of you are, but that's where I'm at, toasting with water to the Dem. Go team.
Cheers. Next, let's welcome Larry Farver. Larry has over 20 plus years of experience in human resources, acting, film, radio, TV, live events, parade float design, production, and casting. He's an advocate for LGBTQ rights. He's proud to be living the dream right here in Wilton Manors, serving on a city advisory board and ongoing civic project initiatives as a dedicated volunteer. So, Larry, the Joyride is launching its inaugural 2-day ride on November 22nd from Miami to Key West, spanning 2 days and 165 miles of scenic, sun-kissed landscapes. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to. Every day when I go to work, I work for a healthcare organization in downtown Fort Lauderdale in HR. I pass the Broward House. And after 20 years, the Smart Ride has passed the baton to several nonprofits. And the Joyride is what we're talking about right now. And, the money will go towards, AIDS-related charities, and it's exciting. And I'm glad that the baton has been passed and they're continuing the ride. I personally know some great people in the community. I know Carvel Estriplet, who owns her own store in Wilton Manors, is one of the riders. And I believe that her significant other, Robert Hadley, will be supporting that effort, and many other fine citizens of our area. So it's exciting. I think, one of my bucket list items, I hate to even say that because I'm going to be around hopefully to at least 100 or more, will be to eventually do that myself. But I realize it does take a lot of training, but it's exciting. And I finally live in a place 5 years in from New York and New Jersey where there are no hills. So I think it would be a lot easier for me. But I realize there's some serious training ahead for Larry Farver if he participates. So.
Well, and you've got the connection to Carvel. So I think she can give you some good advice, the right equipment.
Yes, make sure my bike's ready to go and she can be my pit stop mechanic.
I
if needed to. So, no, but seriously, please check it out. Please donate. It's a great charity.
Awesome.
And of course, this is today's lead anchor, Mark Pettitt. Mark is a pioneering traveler and coordinated the very first gay pride parade ever on the continent of Antarctica. He is a former Mr. Sawmill leather sir, and he and his husband run linksbyluke.com, a chainmail, harness, and pride accessory shop. Mark, the holiday shopping fair is organized at the South Florida Fairgrounds from November 23rd through November 24th. Tell me, what's happening?
Well, what's happening is that you do not need to get behind in your Christmas shopping and be waiting till the last time. This would be like one day that you could just walk through, and I guarantee you find something for everyone. Links by Luke will definitely be standing out a little bit with our chainmail and custom kind of work. And I think that's one of the most exciting things when you get one of our pieces. It's fitted to you.
Well, it's absolutely gorgeous. And
Tell me more.
Yes, absolutely. Now, did you wear some of your pieces? And you have to tell us a little bit about your headlining the first gay pride parade in Antarctica. Mm-hmm. We need to know.
I did that back in, that was in 2018. It had never, ever been done before. And I was going there for really just an adventure trip with a gay travel group, kind of much like the Happening Out, like we have our own kind of gay travel group. It was a trip like that. It was the one thing about the trip that actually made it affordable was,
wow,
that there was a big group going.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I looked it up and it had never been done. I'm like, well, let's do it.
Did you do it by foot or did you have sleds?
No, actually on foot.
Wow.
On the continent of Antarctica.
That's amazing.
And we even had some penguins. I'm going to insist that they were gay penguins, although I don't know. But we had some penguins join at the end of it. So,
and any Native American Eskimos joining in?
I think that's Alaska.
Okay.
Your website again is Links by Luke.
Linksbyluke.com.
And you can see a very attractive picture of his husband on there, let me tell you.
Well, he's not wrong.
Well, you certainly an exciting line of designer wear. I love it. And we'll encourage our audience to check out your wares online.
I anticipate the pings. Well, we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBT community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points for Queer News for Monday, November 11th, 2024. First this evening, Let's queer up trans rights. Trans Day of Remembrance brings hope and resilience to South Florida. November marks a powerful month of remembrance, advocacy, and celebration for South Florida's transgender community, bringing together activists, allies, and community leaders. Trans Inclusive Group is rallying support for trans equality in Florida through a series of events. On November 14th, the community is invited to a reflective evening of discussion on transgender rights and resilience at the Our Fund Foundation Auditorium in Fort Lauderdale. Moderated by Nick Harris, the panel will include key figures like Nastasia Buchanan of Trans Inclusive Group, the mental health clinician Chris Harris, and Regina Gerbier, a transgender activist and educator. The next scheduled event is on November 20th. On this day, Trans Inclusive Group, Ariana Center, and Trans Social will hold a T-Door March at Justin Flippin Park in Wilton Manors, followed by a memorial service at the Pride Center at Equality Park. The T-Door celebration will conclude on November 26th with the 10th Annual Transgender Equality Awards. The event will celebrate trans advocates, healthcare providers, and community organizations working toward transgender equality. The award ceremony will be hosted by Missy Miyake-LePage. More details can be found at transinclusivegroup.org. Well, I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this story. In my opinion, I think that this could not be a more important story. Trans rights really are queer rights, and I think that's probably obvious to everybody out there. But trans rights are also gay rights. You can be both. Trans rights are also straight rights too. I mean, gender identity flows through every sexuality.
That's very true. I agree with you. And, I think that we need to educate, and I can't say that enough. I'm very privileged to have come down here and had the opportunity to be introduced to Candace Kane and Dan Davis of Marriott's Mary Productions. And I've gone from being a background actor and extra to being an associate producer working with these fine women. And I can't imagine the world without their talent, their light, but I've met so many wonderful people through them. Right now we're working on a documentary, and I won't go into all the detail, but we have had some great interviews with wonderful trans men and women. And, I've had the opportunity in the past, and we can't dim that light. But as you said, Mark, you look at the spectrum of people who, they identify as straight, trans, lesbian, trans, the whole spectrum. I had the opportunity back in New York to work with a wonderful, wonderful director of film, Anthony, and he was amazing. I think of many others that I've met in our community, and I think that we need to educate people and bring it to the surface so that people aren't afraid. We're not looking to meet a quota. Certainly there are people we certainly don't want in our spectrum. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but there are just some people out there who use the Bible as a shield, and they forget about what it's all about: love and supporting your fellow mankind or womankind or transkind. And I think it's time is here, and I think it's something that we need to be there. I know there's another story coming up, and I won't steal the thunder on that, but it's scary when you see people infighting in our community saying, well, why do we need to support them? The same reason that we were supported by many others, whether it's the Black community, Latino community, when the Mattachine Society developed, in the 50s and 60s, if I got my decades correct. So very important.
Yeah, you made a good point about the rights, and I want to paraphrase Hillary Clinton for a second. Trans rights are human rights, and human rights are trans rights.
Absolutely.
But the thing that I think that makes the Transgender Day of Remembrance so important is people often, they want to try and talk about all these really random things. The right's always trying to make up these lies about sports and bathrooms. Transgender Day of Remembrance is about trans murders at the end of the day. This is a group that is uniquely affected by violence. compared to anyone else in the LGBTQ community right now. Especially Black trans women are put at extreme danger often in our society. And that's why I think this sort of day is so important, especially right now. You know, the next time someone tries to tell you like all these random weird things that they're trying to say about our community or about trans people, like, it's about trying to protect our lives to exist. And, you know, speaking of people who have given their life, you know, Let's Queer Up Gay Culture on Veterans Day, the LGBTQ community remembers queer veterans with help from the Library of Congress. This Veterans Day, the Library of Congress honored LGBTQ veterans by sharing their stories. Spanning from World War II to the present day, these stories highlight resilience in the face of unique challenges. Many queer veterans served their country while keeping their true identities hidden, due to exclusionary policies threatening their military careers. These stories illuminate the courage, sacrifice, and dedication that queer service members have shown through the decades. To celebrate the day, the library also allowed visitors to explore these narratives at the Library of Congress with access to the historic Thomas Jefferson Building and special exhibits. The public also had the rare chance to tour the library's renowned main reading room, showcasing one of Washington, D.C.'s most beautiful spaces. You know, this is a really nice story to hear with Veterans Day. I'm not an expert on queer veterans. I have been to the Library of Congress maybe 15, 20 years ago as a DC intern, and the main reading room is beautiful. I'm glad that they're doing something like this for queer veterans today, and happy Veterans Day really to everyone this afternoon.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to be supportive. You know, there are many stories out there which unfortunately we can't highlight now, but would be great in the future if Queer News Tonight could bring them to the surface or have interviews. But I look at another project that I was on with Christopher Batea Fretzel when I came down, and it was a movie based on a true story called Frag. There was an incident back in 2022 in Wilton Manors based on a closeted veteran who came into a bar on Andrews Avenue and had a fake grenade. And he was really brought in because he was burned on Grindr by one of the bar staff there. And luckily it was not a real grenade, but it shows that we need to support people, and it's never too late to come out and anywhere in the spectrum of LGBTQ. And the same thing going back to, you know, the bathroom bill, the bathroom bills and the prejudice that's out there. You know, Diaper Doll is another one, you know, going back to the trans, you know, community. And, you know, while it was a parody, it's hard to believe that here we are waiting for Mr. Trump to arrive. And, you know, he said on air that he's going to support everyone. And in one of my recent broadcasts, I looked right in the screen and had a conversation and said, you know, to your people, Mr. Trump, or to you, put your money where your mouth is. We're going to remember what you said. And, you know, maybe we're going to have to rally toward activism to support our veterans.
This is exactly where my mind went on this story.
Absolutely.
Is this same thing able to happen next year? Because you have those kind of words of support from Trump, but so many of these decisions are made by a million other people that are below him, like with DeSantis ruling out the flags that could be flown. Well, so, you know, last time Trump had all these like guardrails on him and an unfamiliarity with the system that is not in play anymore.
Though, to get back to that person in 2002, sorry to go with
the grenade.
That reminds me of like, I don't know what the mental health of that person was, but as someone who's known people that have been to Afghanistan and Iraq, we do need to remember on Veterans Day to talk about mental health of our veterans and how going into a war zone completely messes with your head. A friend, I'm not going to get into too many details, but like we were in P-Town once for Carnival. He went missing. The fireworks made him think he was back in Afghanistan, and we had to go find him, the poor thing.
PTSD
and we don't,
is real.
Yeah, and we don't talk about that enough when we're talking about things like veterans. And you don't even think about it until like you mentioned it, and just reminded me.
And certainly we cannot go back to don't ask, don't tell. I mean, after having Pete Buttigieg, you know, come to the spotlight and as a leader, and I would like to think, and unfortunately he probably will not be kept on by Trump, but I'd love to think that he will go on to bigger and greater things. I've heard him speak. I loved seeing he is a veteran talking down one of the Fox female newscasters. She was trying to, you know, unnerve him, and he had an answer for everything and made her, you know, basically scramble to maintain her composure.
There is not much better than Pete Buttigieg on Fox.
Yes.
And like, why can't I talk like that?
Exactly. Where was that
Just
coach?
so
I
sharp.
had that mentorship when I was a young boy in Western New Jersey, who just, kept going every day and saying, it's going to get better. And I had to be my own coach. So, we cannot go back. We can't.
Hopefully we won't.
Next, let's queer up the USA View. Yale psychiatrist suggests that queer people should avoid Trump-supporting family during the holidays. Dr. Amanda Calhoun, a Yale University child psychiatrist, has advised LGBTQ individuals with Trump-voting family members to set boundaries this holiday season. Appearing on MSNBC's The Readout with Joy Reid, Dr. Calhoun shared her perspective on handling potentially tense family gatherings after recent election outcomes. She said, quote, "If you're going through a situation where you have family members or you have close friends who have voted in ways that are against you, that are against your livelihood, then it's completely fine not to be around those people and to tell them why," end quote. She encouraged people to express their feelings openly, adding that they can say, quote, "I have a problem with the way you voted. I need to take some space for me," end quote. This message has resonated with many queer individuals facing conflict with family members who may not support their rights. Dr. Calhoun's advice emphasizes prioritizing mental well-being and self-respect in what can be a challenging season for the LGBT community. Well, I have to say, to my disappointment, and it wasn't a shock because we had Trump run before. I have some family that I love very much, and I have some people who voted for both parties. I have a niece who said, "Uncle Larry, if you and Uncle Daniel need to go somewhere, you have us. You can stay in our home." That meant so much to me. She's also my goddaughter. Actually, I'm getting emotional over it because it's just hitting me right now. But, her dad, who I love, my brother, is voted the other way. And to think that there's such a disparity within families. And I think the one saving grace, it sounds awful, is that I have my chosen family down here. And it's not that I've ostracized. Certainly if I was back up in the Northeast, I would be having Thanksgiving with them. I think certainly we've learned from past experiences, which I can't go into, but would make a great parody of some kind of a family story. We've learned a long time ago that there's certain conversations you don't have when you get together. Let's just say the shit hit the fan one year, probably 20 years ago, when I kissed a former fiance before I met my current husband behind the roses during a farm festival, and got talked to and said, "What are you doing? I have to live here." And I had to tell that beloved relative, well,
I have to live in the world.
That's my significant other. We weren't having sex rolling down the street in the cornfields, but we had a kiss, which meant a lot to me. And the next day I stood my ground and we went to my grandma's birthday party. So I have to say, I love my family. I have my chosen family down here. I think it's a personal choice. It's a deeply personal choice. I have a close friend that very gay friendly, but she supported Trump. She posted things on Facebook. She had Trump on the golf course. It might be funny to some people, but AI can do treacherous things, throwing Kamala Harris into a pond. And people think that's funny. And I just did a night of 1,000 Kamalas with Dana Davis from Married to Mary Productions at the pub on the Drive, trying to support our candidate before the election. So, it's when you have a niece, going back to that, being scared, I think, I'm very lucky to live where I am. And I don't want to say I'm in a bubble. I'm very privileged to live where I am and have the friends and people and community I have. Thank God I'm not in a place where we don't have those resources. I'm not sure how I am, but I am going to say that this year I'm going to push my employer, who I respect and I'm proud to work for, to be very prominent during Gay Pride, just as many other healthcare providers in the community have done in the past. Some with even, past religious connections have stood first and foremost in supporting our community. So I think it's important. Gentlemen?
Yeah, I think Dr. Calhoun does something really important in this story, and just really even giving permission for a person to feel that way. Yes. I think so often when there is that family disconnect, and family is so important to each of us, that the torture of that disconnect and dissonance can be, I think, really just deafening to what's going on in the outside world. But I would just want to kind of highlight, well, a couple things. One is I think that a lot of people have, especially queer people, have families where the entire family, has voted against their rights, which is pretty difficult. But Dr. Calhoun really, I think, uses some good language in here in talking about boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries does not mean that you have to cut people off. It just means that you have certain space, certain kind of rules of engagement that need to be followed. Really, she's just talking about a mutual respect and having the bravery to say that I will be receiving this respect. So I applaud this and the permission that she's given people to really feel their feelings.
I was listening to this, and it's hard because each family is unique and different, and we've all gone through very emotional things with our families, whether it be coming out, how they've accepted or not accepted us. But at the same time, I look at where we are in the country, and having someone from an Ivy League school, Yale is where more people go to Ivy League schools from the top 1% than the bottom 60%. So someone from an Ivy League school, it feels like she's lecturing our society right now at a time where I don't think that helps, honestly. I'm please, liberal media, don't be telling people that their family is the enemy. Please, calm down and let people figure out their families themselves. That doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to your own mental health providers on how to deal with that. But I felt like MSNBC was being a little cringe with it. Not too cringe, but a little. And the thing that I will also say to a lot of us, I think, are going through our own mental health about the election, it's not your fault. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made their choices.
Not if you voted.
Whether you chose to vote or not. You guys did not set the tone for that presidential campaign. They were big kids that knew exactly what they were doing. There were plenty of pollsters that could have told them what they were doing was going to go in a certain direction. They made a particular path choice for both of them. They're big kids. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. They need to deal with that.
And I'm going to say this, and there may be somebody, in the community who bashes Larry Farver for saying this. I've had conversations with my mother when we were going, it's terrible when you're doing it long distance. We weren't even doing it FaceTime. That would have been more fun. But we had conversations, and I said, Mom, I'll be honest with you. I really wish there was another choice. I said, I'm not happy with the choices, but certainly I'm not going to vote for Trump. I said, you raised me to respect women. And I told her, I'm not going to go into the grabbing thing and all this stuff. But I said, you taught me as a single mom raising me to respect women. My father and my stepmother did the same thing. So how can I support somebody with that baseline? Someone who hasn't maintained promises. But the other thing is to be told, whether it's a loved one who supported Trump in the election, that you have nothing to worry about. It's just their supporters, and that don't worry, at the end of the day, you're not endangered. Well, you tell that to many of us who were bullied as kids, and we put it back. That's our PTSD, just like the veterans.
Yeah.
I have learned to compartmentalize it, and sometimes it comes to the surface. But I'll be damned, and I've told my mother this, I'll be damned if somebody comes after me, just like in the Holocaust. I will have everybody's back, and I hope that our community does too. And not to remember that model. People sometimes, I think, slouch that off, and it's very real. So I hope that any of the people that supported Trump have our backs during this next 4 years. I hope the next 4 years goes calmly and that Trump maintains his position. But again, I know that there's some people out there who don't support us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, next, let's queer up HOTspots magazine. HOTspots magazine brings new issue to stands with holiday highlights. HOTspots magazine latest issue, released last Thursday, is packed with must-read features for the LGBTQ community. The special restaurant edition spotlights Taste of the Island, showcasing over 40 Wilton Drive restaurants and beverage companies. Culture enthusiasts won't want to miss the Art of Drag fundraiser at Aquaplex on November 17th. And an exclusive preview of the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival running through November 17th. The magazine also has all the details on Mike Ruiz's Mutts and Muscles 2025 calendar and Tony Award-winning The Cher Show tour to South Florida, featuring an interview with actor Tyler Perrung. Lastly, read Chris Azzopardi's deep dive on Zachary Quinto's role in NBC's Brilliant Minds and Scott Holland's revealing interview with Mike Martorell on his Pride Fort Lauderdale resignation. Grab your free copy and catch it all. I do just have to plug here Miss Faye What. She is hosting tonight the Taste event, so we wish you the very best there. We know it's going to go phenomenal. You have left me some very big heels to fill, so I hope I'm making you proud. But as much as I would like to explore doing a deep dive into Zachary Quinto, I love how that was written. Call me. But what is standing out to me in this story is Aquaplex, formerly known as Lips. Me and my husband were just there, and the girls were talking a lot about the new management and it really being behind them and behind us as a community, because it's our first time being back since the big kind of changeover, and that's of course what you wonder is how are you taking care of the entertainers. And those are really nice words, but to see that they're backing it up with action like this and using their venue to host, I think is really admirable. And I could be wrong and I could get called out on it, but I don't remember Lips doing that.
I don't know enough about Lips management to comment, but it's nice to hear a positive story with new management, because normally when I hear new management, I'm like, what's the drama? We got to report on the story. And so that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
I don't know anything that's going on with Fort Lauderdale Pride. I've had some advisors for this show remind me not to try and go into a deep dive of it, but I have to now get a copy to know what the heck is going on with Fort Lauderdale Pride. That sounds like a really gossipy story. I can't wait to read.
You got to pick it up on the way home.
Yeah, no, and I have to agree. Being in human resources for my day job that pays, I'm going to say that employee relations is very important. So when I hear the gossip on the drive, which I try not to pay attention to in social media, but when you hear enough of it, or if you're friendly with wait staff and there's a reality there, it's really refreshing to hear that, the owner of an organization such as Aquaplex has people's backs, and, hopefully they'll be successful. We need to continue to encourage businesses to grow, not only in Wilton Manors and maintain, but in the periphery in Fort Lauderdale and of course Oakland Park, where Aquaplex sits. Being on an advisory board, looking to make Andrews Avenue and Oakland Park Boulevard corridors just as nice as the drive. We encourage this, so I'm excited about it.
Right on. Yeah.
Next up, let's queer up politics. The numbers are in. Despite disappointments, LGBTQ candidates have won big. In a historic election year, over 1,000 LGBTQ candidates ran for office nationwide, achieving significant wins and setting records across multiple levels of government. According to the LGBTQ Plus Victory Fund, 668 queer candidates reached the general election, with nearly 80% of their endorsed candidates emerging victorious as of Friday. The candidates ran in all states except Nebraska, achieving wins in 40 states, Puerto Rico, and Washington, D.C. The LGBTQ candidate pool was more diverse than ever, with 37.6% of queer people of color and 15.2% were non-cisgender candidates. Congressional races included 17 LGBTQ candidates. Among them were Delaware's Sarah McBride, who became the first out transgender person elected to Congress, while Texas's Julie Johnson and Washington's Emily Rendell made history as the first LGBTQ representatives from the South and the first queer Latina, respectively. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin won re-election amidst anti-trans ads targeting her sexuality. At least 1,273 LGBTQ elected officials now serve across the U.S. However, it is still just 0.25% of all officials. With a Republican-controlled government, this increasing representation is critical. I want to start off by first, if I doubt she watches, but like, hey, Sarah McBride, congratulations. She was part of the HRC's communications team when I was the media director at the task force. So we'd see her all the time. Absolute sweetie pie in DC. I'm really happy to hear about her win. Overall, with the elections, I think it shows that if you run a good campaign, especially if you're willing to talk to everyday people, you're going to be more victorious. I was looking at the different races that didn't happen very well here. Like there was a transgender candidate in Tampa, Ashley Bundage, who's a very nice person, but like I warned on Queer News tonight, like, she's coming from she's a banker from a very upper middle class white background. I don't think that's going to play well in an election. And it did not play well electorally on election day, and hopefully more candidates will run that are queer, and especially queer working class candidates, especially. I think we need to see more representation there as well. But thoughts, gentlemen?
No, absolutely. And I think it's refreshing that we're lucky, especially in the greater, Fort Lauderdale, Wilton Manors area and beyond, that we have people, in some cases a majority, who sit on commission seats within Wilton Manors. I'm proud to be part of a neighborhood association for the West Side Association, but we have 4 associations, and we all get along. We have heterosexual, we have people of all walks in the community, all spectrums of color, and I think it's important that we really, as a community, encourage our community to get involved, and it's part of activism. One of the things I said on a recent broadcast too is, with the propaganda that's coming out from the right, it's really important to not only get involved if politics is your interest, but our technical strengths as LGBTQ with artificial intelligence. Because I'll tell you honestly, not that I'm afraid of what it can do that's productive, but those people who will use it for evil, and that we need to have people who are literate in artificial intelligence assist our community or assist the world in preventing, the evil people out there from doing what's destructive.
Well, I know we've got a long way to go, a really long way, but just how awesome to have a little bit of good election news towards this.
Yes.
In going through this last week, you have to kind of keep reminding yourself that there's a Martin Luther King quote where he says, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So it might be just 0.24% that we have, but it is bending in that direction.
Exactly.
And even though that pendulum goes back and forth and does some really big swings, we're in the middle of a big swing, but just remember that pendulum overall is still moving forward too.
Yeah. And once again, to Sarah McBride, congratulations on being the first transgender member of Congress.
Yeah.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ 1 Minute News. LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up trans rights. Anti-trans lesbian Fox News host blames gender fluidity for Democratic candidates' losses. Transphobic lesbian commentator Bari Weiss faces backlash after claiming Democrats lost key races by focusing on niche issues like gender fluidity and defunding the police. Speaking on Fox News, Weiss said, quote, "It turns out that running on these extraordinarily niche issues like gender fluidity or defunding the police feel profoundly out of touch to ordinary Americans." However, many on the internet disagreed, pointing out that neither Vice President Kamala Harris nor other prominent Democrats centered on those issues in their campaigns. Transgender issues were mentioned only once during the Democratic National Convention by Human Rights Campaign President Kelly Robinson, and exit polls revealed just 4% of voters prioritized trans issues. People also pointed out that it was the Republicans who spent $215 million on anti-trans attack ads.
How can progressives win again? By looking at what went wrong here, by taking this moment and allowing it not to be a retrenchment of the idea of, half of Americans want a fascist regime. They don't. They want a good life for themselves and their families, and actually looking in the mirror. It turns out that running on these extraordinarily niche issues like gender fluidity or defunding the police or any number of things that people in places where I live get extremely excited about don't actually matter or frankly feel profoundly out of touch to ordinary Americans. So if progressive is about these niche issues that you find on college campuses and in gender studies department, and you want to keep doubling down on that, you're going to continue to lose.
Well, I think that this is just so especially ironic, being that these were not actually central campaign issues, which makes me wonder why she's saying that they are and saying that repeatedly. And it's just, I think when you really hate something, you have to continually feed it. It's like a fire. And this is how she's feeding it. So I call on all lesbians heretofore, no more romantic interaction with this Bari Weiss lady. We gotta cut her off where it counts.
You're too kind to say the Democrats didn't push it. I did a piece that we talked about on Queer News Tonight of Trump must be stopped, Harris must be resisted because of her complete just abandoning the trans community. Not only was there no trans speaker the first time in 3 Democratic National Conventions, no trans speaker this time. She was actually asked on NBC News if she supported trans people. She ran away from trans people. The Texas Senate candidate, Colin I can't remember his name. He's a loser. I don't remember. He also started talking about, I don't believe in boys and girls sports. Well, good job, man. That really helped you beat Ted Cruz. Oh, wait, you still lost. And, as for Bari Weiss, I haven't talked to you on Twitter in ages, but you used to be so interesting and cool, and I thought she was going to be the voice of the millennial generation with cool new perspectives, and she's just peddling right-wing stuff at this point. She's just grifting. Come on, girl, stop with the grift.
I agree with you, Alex, and I just have to compliment what you both said and just say we need to be very careful too, and we have, We don't have to agree with everything within our community. We have to use our minds. And yes, we want to be cohesive, but we don't have to follow some leaders that maybe get off course, such as this woman. It's embarrassing. It's a little bit horrifying to think that a leader on national news, no matter what your personal thoughts are, that she would use a forum like that in front of millions of people and reinforce a negative.
Yeah, that's what she's taken her time to do.
What's so horrifying is she's not the only one pushing this. And as I said earlier, the only demographic so far, there might have been 1 or 2 others that I haven't noticed, from 2020 to 2024, that Harris actually did better than Biden was the LGBTQ community. And so many people around the Democratic Party efforts are kicking us in the teeth. This party cannot stop attacking its own base.
Wow. LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Art Walk Wilton Manors returns on November 16th. Wilton Manors is bringing art, community, and culture to the sidewalks this month with the return of Art Walk Wilton Manors on November 16th from 6 to 9 p.m. This LGBTQ-friendly event is held every third Saturday from October through May and offers the chance to experience the vibrant art scene. This month's artists will showcase their work at 6 locations, including Island City Smoke Shop and the Dixie Village on North Dixie Highway. From fine art and handicrafts to one-of-a-kind pieces, Art Walk is the perfect place to find unique gifts for loved ones or a personal treasure to bring home. To sweeten the experience, visitors can enter a free self-portrait raffle too. That sounds like a lot of fun. For more information, visit www.awwm.org. Well, I'm excited. I'm going to check it out. Hope you guys are there too.
It was actually one of the very first Links by Luke events that we ever did.
Awesome.
Was Art Walk, and it's just to see it grow to the multiple locations now, where it's really become almost like a citywide event. I think it's really cool to see that growth.
It looks so cute and amazing. I can't wait to go. Is your attractive husband going to be with you at this one?
Why is he always my attract?
Because it's more fun to say it like that. And he's British,
okay.
ladies and gentlemen. So.
I know attorneys. Restraining orders on the way, Luke. Don't worry. I got it.
Well, I think it's really exciting to think that Wilton Manors, I think, 2 square miles, that we have some of the best culture every day.
Yeah.
There are times where I'm sitting there saying, I have a conflict. I don't know which one I'm going to go to.
That's a good problem.
I know some of our commissioners in town go event hopping and they do it well, but I'm like, wow, there's so many things to do.
Oh, yeah. And by culture, they also have some amazing martinis. LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up the worldview. African country of Mali criminalizes gay sex. In a move troubling to LGBTQ advocates, Mali's military-led government has voted to criminalize homosexuality. The National Transitional Council, which has held power for over 3 years, has approved the Penal Code amendment with a near-unanimous vote of 131 in favor and 1 against. Now, the final approval rests with Mali's military leaders. Under the new Penal Code, anyone engaging in or promoting queer identities will face persecution. This development raises concerns across West Africa as neighboring Burkina Faso's junta is reportedly preparing similar measures. Mali's new penal code is yet to be published, leaving many details uncertain. I always find it so odd when I see countries in places like Africa and Asia criminalize homosexuality, because often, especially parts of Africa, there's this big push to throw off what British colonialism has done to them. Well, outlawing homosexuality is an old British and French throwback. So when you redo this Africa, you're actually just re-embracing European colonialism. So please stop doing what Europe used to do. Like, they figured out it was no good. Don't do it yourselves.
Yeah, and definitely check out the Department of State website when it comes to Mali, because this change is it's a very unfortunate one, but they've already said do not travel to Mali due to crime, terrorism, kidnapping. So now we can add this to the category. Congratulations.
And I'm going to say again to our future POTUS to be Mr. Trump, Donald, these countries, if you truly have all of your citizens and you have our backs and you support all of us, whether we voted for you or not, let's boycott these countries. Let's show them that we need to have, human rights throughout the world, and we're not going to be messed around with. So boycott these countries and let them, and then certainly let's have a sensitivity. I'm sure there's some citizens that are LGBTQ that we need to look out for. And, while we may need to look at immigration, that certainly these are true refugees that deserve to come over.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up gaming. The newest title in Dragon Age video game series continues queer character traditions.
You need not tell me that I am an inadequate mother. I am aware.
Then why did you leave?
When I see my child in danger, I act.
Here's the ginger.
Thank you.
So, I'm non-binary.
What does that mean?
It means I don't feel like a man or a woman.
If you are neither a man nor a woman, then what are you?
Non-binary. I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on.
If this is because I have criticized your dress or your manners...
It isn't!
Under the Cune, the term for one whose gender does not match the one given to them at birth was a...
The latest Dragon Age release, The Veilguard, is stirring conversations for its dedication to queer representation and for continuing a legacy of inclusivity that has defined the series. Though there is a pushback from certain segments of the gaming community, LGBTQ fans are happy about it, and many critics are praising The Veilguard for remaining true to its roots. From bisexual characters in Dragon Age Origins to fan-favorite trans figures in Inquisition, BioWare has created safe spaces for queer players to explore gender and identity. The newest title goes further, allowing players to select pronouns and even establish a trans identity if desired. I say this is very surprising for me, not kind of being in the gaming community. I had very little exposure to it, which was groups of friends that would play it, and I would walk in and they were all playing these games, which would be on speaker, and you could hear the other people talking. And I can't even count how many times people were using gay slurs to yell at you when you mess something up, you F word, and like that was my only taste of it, and I have never gone back. So this just evolution of it is impressive. It's and also beautifully done.
It is the gaming community is very common because when I play Halo online, I stay mute because they hear my voice. It's just like, what's this queer doing here? And like, it's not like if it was like in other video games like Star Wars Battlefront 2, I'm very good at. So I don't mind if you say that because I will still be killing you the entire time. But Halo, I'm no good at. Whereas with Dragon Age, I love that there's more queer representation. It reminds me of all the queer representation that they put in Baldur's Gate 3, which I will always get a kick out of. The YouTube trans reporter of video games. She goes by the Jimquisition. And I love how her favorite thing to do in Baldur's Gate is to be a femme elf ladyboy, and she loves to pick like the top female parts that look great and the bottom bits for the guy to make her feel very complete. And I'm like, I love that. I love when video games go in that direction. And it's a good thing for more video games to have more fun and more ability to do what you want to do to your characters. And then to put them in like this to have actual storylines, it's just been wonderful.
I'm personally excited. I've never been a gamer, but maybe that'll be something that we look at to put under the Christmas tree. I have an old friend back in New Jersey who runs a company called J2Games.com. So Jay Fenimore, if you see this, be the first, because I think this is something that will really be a hit. And, I'm tired of, when I think of gaming, I think of violence against women, certainly violence against humankind. And to be able to be, live out, maybe, living an alternate life, it's exciting, to have that fantasy.
Yeah. Gaming has also changed a lot. Not everything's action. I can't remember the name of the game, but there's some games that are just story narratives where you're literally going around and solving like a mystery. And there was actually a game a couple years ago of a trans man. You play as a trans man and with your sister going back to Alaska and going through what happened to your mother. And it was actually a very beautiful story. And like, there's so many other things to gaming now. I think.
So there's drama gaming?
Yes. Like, I think 20, 30 years from now, like the TV and games might start merging more and more. So that'll be interesting to see.
Very interesting.
Yeah, no. And it's funny. Now I'm having a flashback. I won't say what year it was, but I was in high school back in the day. And, you wonder, with technology, where this is going to go. I had a teacher saying, by the year, blah, 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 they're going to be holograms. You're going to interact with them. And I'm like, yeah, right.
And now.
And here we are. It's exciting. It's exciting. Very exciting. Well, LGBT 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Queer rock group, the Scissor Sisters returns, but without animatronic. The Scissor Sisters are back. After years of rumors, fans are buzzing as Jake Shears, Baby Daddy, and Del Marquis announced their 2025 reunion tour. Known for their dynamic live performances, the trio is already thrilling fans with the promise of an incredible show that remains true to their iconic hits like Filthy Gorgeous. While the reunion excitement is high, animatronic's absence has sparked a wave of emotion amongst fans. Baby Daddy shared he really, quote, wanted to make sure that Anna was asked, but was not something that she wanted to do at the moment, end quote. He also mentioned that Anna's decision to come came from a place of self-priority and the band admires it. Well, I am excited. I'd like to see them. I know I missed their show when they were here in the Fort Lauderdale area. And from what I know from my anchor colleagues here, it's a show to be reckoned with. So I love showmanship. I love, uniqueness. So I'm all in.
You are going to have your cup overfloweth.
Oh, great.
We were just playing Filthy Gorgeous right before right before it started. I'm like, okay, let's just jam out that song is like my gay musical spirit animal. If you could have one,
I love it.
That would be up. And you would work with Attitude and written for them.
The Advocate. No,
oh, I'm sorry, Advocate. But there was a recent post, I believe it was Attitude, not Advocate, apologies, but called their first album, which if you're curious is self-titled, Scissor Sisters, one of the best pop records of all time. And I think especially true if you're LGBT.
Oh yeah. Nightwork is actually one of my favorite albums of all time. I think this is one of the biggest stories of the year that they're doing a tour. I don't fault Animatronic. This band was started 24 years ago. Touring is hard. Like, I've never attempted to do anything like touring, and that just looks really hard. It's rough. These are not like a bunch of 19-year-olds on their first tour. I get her like wanting to stay home. Hopefully, maybe she'll do another album with them sometime, Anna. Maybe that it would be something in the future, but still, like, it's great to see Jake and the rest of them go back on tour. If they come down to Wilton, Manors, I'll probably be like the geek going in there and be like, do Laura or something,
Oh, Miami or Orlando's got to be one of the shows.
Right.
At least, if not Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. Great.
Well, that is today's news for the LGBT community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support if our community is to grow. We must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of HOTspots magazine, Happening Out television network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Mark Pettitt, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Alex Morash and Larry Farver, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we wish you good night.
Good night.